All right. Kick him in the butt, Big Blue, Auburn, Rammer, Jammer, Yellow Hammer, go to hell, Alabama, 2 times in a row this season. I got a little bit of this baby right here, a little broom for a little bit of a sweep. If you see it on YouTube, I got it out, baby. We just won by 19 points. We dropped 100 on them, baby. Before we get too far into it, you might have noticed we got a new intro, and I want to thank my friend Ben Young for putting that together. An Auburn alumni that goes back all the way since we were kids, and he got a theater degree from Auburn, is living the dream in New York. So I really thank him for taking his time to put that together for us. Also want to tease a little bit later this week. We have a big interview coming up with a former Auburn legend from the team that also is still working with the team today. I'm not going to say his name. We'll make sure it's going to happen, but leave it in the chat, leave it in the DM us who you think we're going to interview on Thursday. It's going to be a big one. We're very excited. Oh man, what a game. You love beating Bama no matter what. They tried to make it a little thrilling in there, but man, we dropped 100 points on our rival, a team that's beaten Baylor, Gonzaga, Houston, all these top 5, top 10 teams. We just showed them what can happen when the refs aren't taking Kessler out of the game. When we're playing our best game, we can score 100 points on a team like this. What do you think, Matt?
It was a great game. There's a lot of things we'll get into. Great performance. When you go up, Jackson's just going to be playing with the broom the whole episode.
We sweeping, baby. It's a sweep.
If you saw it, Bruce was doing the crane kick. He had a broom on court. So we're just going to, and he said before the game, the win in Tuscaloosa only matters if you win at home and secure that sweep. We got swept last year by them in our terrible year. This is a great response for the rivalry, for Auburn kind of reestablishing itself all the things on the line, but this is about just beating them. And Alabama's a scary opponent. Don't let our students, who I love dearly, chanting NIT, confuse you. This is a team that is probably like a 5 seed right now in the NCAA tournament, despite all their bad losses, because the only time they've lost to a ranked team this year is twice to Auburn. They've won 4 or 5 games against ranked teams, but they haven't been able to get over the hump against us. It feels great, and I can't wait to talk about it for the next hour or so.
They might have been heading to NIT, but it's so frustrating to watch them because they beat Baylor last week and they were trending so down, lost at Georgia, one of the worst teams in the league. They'd lost a bunch of bad games around, and then you go out and you beat Baylor, and their reputation's kind of rehabbed back from okay, they had some big wins early in the season, but they suck now, to okay, they're just super up and down. I'm glad we could shut the door kind of a little bit on that narrative, because if they'd beaten us in this one, their narrative would have been just so hard to handle. It would have been one of those teams that people just all want to pick as the trendy pick for the Final Four, no matter what their seed is. So I'm glad we kind of slammed that and be like, nah, not us. Maybe some of the other pretender teams out there, they did this too, but not us. It was a crazy one, man. They really had to try it. We went up not necessarily early. They fought both times. The guards had some really good defense. We kind of got the lead going, and then they started hitting all their threes. That's a big thing with Bama, was hitting their threes. It was they shoot a ton of them. They kind of reminded me a little bit, and not to disrespect I don't ever want to compare our teams to theirs necessarily, but they had 2 great guys on this team, Shackelford and Quinterly. Yep. They hit a ton of threes, or not. I could only hit 2 threes, but Shackelford at 5, he was a problem. I got to give him a shout out that he was all over the place. You could tell how exhausted he was getting, though, how much the team was on his back. A little bit like our Final Four teams. They're going to shoot so many threes. They're going to they hit more. Their 3 percentage was higher than their focal percentage. Yep. But so if it's on, it's on. It's off. So you're worried the entire game. They bring the lead back to pretty 11, I think, at halftime when they were up. We were up 20 at one point. Yeah,
let's make sure we get it right. It was about 19 or 20. We kind of let it slip. It got to 14 at halftime, and then you blinked in the beginning of the half. They got it down to 2, and we'll talk about some of the stuff. But then Auburn quickly got back up to 20. I mean, that says a lot about this team, to be up by 20. You see Alabama go on a run similar to how they did in the game in Tuscaloosa, but Auburn just punched right back. We've seen this team get punched in the face so many times, different ways. And you could just tell this crowd, this team wasn't going to be denied, even when it got tight there early in the second half.
It kind of went the way if you're the other team, if you're down 20 with a couple minutes left in the second half, you're telling your team, just get it down to around 10. Try to get it down to 10. That's a reasonable like come back in the second half. So it's kind of frustrating. We were like monstering them up by 20, and then we just kind of took the foot off the gas, some turnovers, got a little sloppy. They got hot from three. That was probably the biggest thing is you just know this Bama team's gonna get hot from three eventually at some point, just because they shoot so many of them at this point.
Yeah.
So they started hitting them. We got sloppy. You go, oh crap. Well, they got down to kind of what like it felt like they like won their little bit of the game at that part. And like, all right, well, as long as you don't come out cold in the second half, and you don't, because that's the game. Like, all right, let's get down to 10, and we come out in the second half. Let's go hard at them and like take it from there. Well, that's what they did again. They came out hot from three again, turning us over. We couldn't seem to make a shot to start the half. But you're right. Luckily, this team's too deep. They didn't play as many players. It felt like they were running Shackelford all over the place the entire time. And it feels like our depth really showed. Like, and we had such a spread out game. So many different players had a good game. And it just spread the entire court.
There's two reasons we won this game in my mind. Pithy take. Okay. Number one, they had two players who were threats. We have at least 5 or 6 that we'll talk about when we go do our rundown. We just had more weapons, and Alabama played their tails off defensively in a two stretch to really begin both halves. They kind of did. You could tell they were into us. They knew our sets. They knew kind of what we're trying to do, but they just couldn't sustain it. We had the game up and down, especially in the first half. And I just think, again, our depth continues to play. And then a brilliant move. Maybe you could say it's an easy move because Alabama was hitting everything, but Bruce goes to his zone, and they never solved that one. It's a 2-3, but they start out with 2 guards, one in the middle, one at the free throw line. And we've never played that great, but man, it gave them a different look. It allowed Kessler to be waiting for those drives inside, and it completely shifted the game. Alabama couldn't do anything with it the rest of the game every time we played it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell when I mean, it was very obvious when we switched that zone. It was clever. And it was also a time where it felt like, I think we hit a shot or two before that, where it was like, all right, it already kind of, it was like, it almost felt 50-50, where it was like, glad we switched to the zone to change things up on defense. I think I'd maybe texted you even like, okay, our offense has picked it back up a little bit, but really I'm concerned about what the defense is going to do next. Cause we had already had a couple times where we'd hit a shot and they hit a shot and say, all right, let's not do that. Let's hit a shot and then them not hit a shot. And right about that same time, we switched to zone and they just went ice cold. I think it was about 50% that zone and 50% like they were just red hot and they were due to miss a couple shots. And so I still love it. I still love when they do the little switch up to man or zone when the other team starts getting hot. It just freaks them out. Usually it's almost as good as taking a heat check timeout if you can pull it off during the
And just to make a nerdy point real quick, the zone is risky in a lot of ways against a good shooting team because you're actually going to let good shooters spot up and get open looks. That's kind of one of the dangers of playing a zone. But what does Alabama want to do? They want to get to the rim, get fouled, get a layup, get a floater, or take a three. They don't want any, they're kind of the NBA analytics model. Like they never want to take a mid-range shot. So a zone actually does that beautifully when you have the best rim protector in America and Walker Kessler waiting inside for your drives. And you've got your 4 perimeter guys scrambling to 3-point shooters. What that zone did, it pushed their shooters back further. They got open looks, but they were deeper. And it was well timed, maybe a few possessions late. Bruce might say he might have wanted to go to it a little sooner. But again, how many different ways can this team win a game? 5 threes made tonight. They score 100 points. And then that defensive switch, I don't remember a game this year where our zone single-handedly kind of flipped the script of the game. So it's just, again, we just keep stacking different ways.
Well, we usually get to it a little earlier, but I think it's time for a very epic MVP discussion here.
Yes.
5 different players scored in double digits. We really felt like we had a game where it was the offense as a whole for the most part. But I think it turns into looking like an offensive whole because 2 players on this team had such a good game and played so well that made everyone else look better around them. And it's Wendell Green and Walker Kessler. And I'll start off with a little bit that Wendell came out hot. Wendell, man, he had an amazing game, the Bama game. One of our easier MVPs was Wendell in that Bama game, which is so good. At 19 points. In fact, wait, did he? Yeah, he got MVP in that one, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Or was it Jabari, actually, now that I think about it?
Oh, no, that was the Jabari game, wasn't it?
Where he went off, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, podcast family. I was about to sound like a real idiot there. Wendell had an amazing game against Bama either way. And, anyway, so it's great to have Wendell come back and have another amazing game. Played super hot, super strong, making some amazing passes, stirring the drink, making this offense go. We really seem to have a strategy that I hope we keep doing all year at this point, that even if the game is not like naturally turning into a fast-paced game, we are pushing and making it a fast-paced game. And we did that a lot this game. If they missed a shot, if we got the ball in advance, Wendell was flashing up the court. And it worked out really great because he has turned up his assist game so well. The other guy, Walker Kessler, just let me say a stat line. This is how different it is because Walker Kessler or Wendell started the game so hot, and he kept hot most of the game. But I was texting Matt with 5 minutes left that Walker Kessler's coming for Wendell's MVP. Because damn, this stat line, 14 points, 8 blocks, 4 steals, 12 rebounds, 2 blocks away from a triple-double. He almost had 1 block away, but Jabari fouled where he got a block right after the foul call. Man, I hope they find another 2 on the stat sheet. I know it's easy to find 1 rebound on the stat sheet, maybe somebody, a little Hollywood accounting on the stat sheet, but it's hard not to give an MVP to someone that's that close to a triple-double. 4 steals, 8 blocks, 14 points, 12 rebounds. I mean, he's come so far, and it's not just like alley-oops. It's not just dunks that are being fed to him. He's starting to make some really good offensive plays off rebounds, and kind of like he had a really great down the lane dunk that JD Davison just got out of the way. He's playing amazing defense. He alters every shot that he doesn't get a block on. This is what's going to happen. He held this energy in because he got fouled out in that Alabama game that was bull crap. And so he held that energy in and exploded in this game. So it's going to be tough. We're going to have to have a discussion here.
Yeah. By the way, I always like to give my dad's update. He texts me now after every game, which is hilarious. But he votes for dual MVPs. I don't think we want to do that. So I do have a live update, by the way. Alabama turned off their comments on their Twitter page after posting the final. So that is
the cowards.
The cowards.
Cowards. Holy crap. We know Alabama is just one of those kind of universities that can't handle the heat when it comes at them. But this is next level. So, come on. You know the heat's going to be quadrupled because you're going to be a national. Like it's one thing when we are doing it and think it's hilarious. When you turn the comments off, that turns it into like a newsworthy story.
Go ask Murray State how that went for them. It eventually turned into a beautiful story, but for a few weeks there, Auburn was just following Murray State Twitter everywhere they went and giving them a lot of crap. So
wow, they turned the comments off.
So
they have 2,418 retweets right now. So it looks like they're going with the retweets to do this, but ooh. This is going to be, some people will be staying up late tonight roasting this team. Man.
Yeah, no, it's, anyway, so I didn't mean to interrupt. MVP, it's a great debate. Like you said, if you wanted to look at negatives, okay, if you wanted to look at negatives, you talked about all the awesome stuff. Kessler had 4 turnovers, had a few he got trapped and kind of attacked sometimes with the ball, gave it up. Wendell took some really bad threes, which we know he's going to do at times, but he didn't even come close to hitting them. But I will say the reason it's these 2 players, it's the stats, but it's also the flow of the game. I loved having Jay Billis do the game. I think he's really good. And he just immediately, from film study and also seeing it live, is just like this whole game changes when Wendell Green comes in the game. We've seen it time and time again. By the way, we just had to back up a week ago tonight. He went down with that banged knees injury and everybody was scared for a few minutes. And he didn't look quite right in the Oklahoma game. Well, he looked right tonight. So that's terrific. To me, it was Wendell's MVP all the way because he stirred the drink. He did everything right. He had the passes. He hit the key shots. He's fearless. Alabama's guards were really trying to be physical and aggressive with us. He was able to take it and when they would over push on him, he would get in front of them and make a play. But man, Kessler,
I'm surprised you're so certain about this. 14 rebounds.
I'm not.
12 rebounds, 14 points, 8 blocks, 4 steals. Go on, put the steals on top. We saw some big steals from him tonight. His hands were great out there. Come on.
But 6 assists from Wendell Green, 8 rebounds.
Well, no, if it was 10, I would be like, okay. But come on.
Well,
Walker makes up for that with 8 blocks. I feel like assists and blocks with Walker is almost like a similar thing. And then you have 4 steals, 12 rebounds, 14 points. They were scared to death to go down there. The blocks he made tonight too. He was just it's crazy. Like we've never seen anything like this. But people were showing he blocked a floater near the end of the game. That was like he was getting to things that were incredible. And then he should have had. Now that I think about it, he should have had a triple double. If Jabari didn't foul right there, he would have gotten his ninth. And guess what? He had a clean block. that they called a foul on. No one, even the announcers were like, so at first they said, okay, maybe he got him with the body. They showed the replay. He didn't get him with the body. He didn't get him with the hands. It should have been a triple double, and you would have been saying anything. You would be like, all right, sorry, Wendell.
No, I still would have, because by the way, I'm not certain of anything. I think this is probably one of the hardest ones we've had. I just think Wendell, how many points of Kessler did Wendell give him? How many?
It was an amazing wraparound one that he gave. That was just incredible.
And it wasn't as much of the lob, variety as it has. But I think teams are starting to try to take that away, opening up other things.
I don't know exactly what maybe it's opening up these drives. Maybe we go back the other way.
Yep.
Kessler's such a threat on these lobs that Wendell's getting these drives, because we've seen some other games where Wendell and KD and them struggle to get those drives in. And what a big difference it is when Wendell is going in there and getting those drives. And you know why? Now think about it. It's probably because they're so afraid of the lob from Kessler. You have to give up one or the other, It
is. No, you're right. And Bruce keeps saying, what are you going to do? If you've got Wendell coming downhill, Kessler going for the lob, and Jabari and KD on the wing in the corner, and
if they miss, Cambridge is going to get the offensive rebounds.
So, I mean, now, having said that, I think Alabama made some good adjustments that we had to figure out. Anyway, MVP. I'm still not sold. I mean, it's hard.
I say that we try our very, very, very best to pick an MVP, because the discussion's good. We had the discussion.
I know.
I think you got to do it. I think you got to give the duel, right?
It feels like a dual one to me.
I think it's not just that they both played equally good. They both played amazing.
Terrific.
In a great game where he scored 100. I don't want to do this all the time.
No.
But I think I just cannot take it away from either other guy. And I know how important it is to these players. I know when they listen in after every game, it's like, they're checking their Twitters and their Instagrams. They're saying, who did Jackson and Matt pick for MVP? It's gonna bother me, I say we do it for the kids, Matt.
We swept Alabama. The rules go out the window. We don't care. Thank goodness. Both of these kids. And just to wrap it up, I'm cool with dual MVPs. To wrap it up, think about what the narrative was on these two guys when this season began. Kessler was this unknown who didn't get to play a lot in North Carolina. We knew he was tall, but I mean, not what he is now. We've talked about him.
We thought maybe he was like a light 3-point shooter, a dirt kind of guy. Oh, he didn't get to shoot his threes. He's going to shoot threes and he's going to play some defense. Nah, man, he is in there.
How about the play where somebody isolated on Kessler, and then he gave him like 3 pump fakes, and Kessler just didn't go for any of them, and then just swatted the mess out of him. He can guard.
It was so sweet to watch.
Everybody talks about getting a switch and getting Kessler in foul trouble and all that. Well, he can guard anybody on the floor. Now, Quinterly is as fast and as good of an attacker of the basket as we have in the SEC, and he got past Kessler a few times. I thought the coolest thing about this game was that Kessler struggled for that middle stretch. Like, they were getting to him, over him, around him. And the last 10 minutes of this game, Kessler had adjusted and figured it out. And part of it was the zone, but he figured out each player, Shackelford, Quinterly, how to defend them. So I'm cool with both. Let's go.
So I'm looking at the stats over here, because Walker's just had another great game he said 8 blocks, right? So we've played how many games now? What's our record?
21-1, correct?
21-1. Okay, so this is one game late. He's 92, the other guy, 85 on this one. I hate doing math live on air because you look like such an idiot. But all right, he's taking the lead. If this, I don't know what Jamarian Sharp did. If Jamarian Sharp played tonight, I don't know if we look up his stats and see. But if Jamarian Sharp doesn't get a block tonight, Walker Kessler is leading the nation in blocks. I'm sure Jamarian Sharp, he's averaging 4 a night. So I'm sure he got some blocks. But there's a chance for the first time in a while that Walker just took the full-time lead. And on top of that, our team itself with Cardwell and Jabari right now is getting some great blocks too. Some really emphatic ones. We are leading the nation in blocks. And if it wasn't for the fact that we're the #1 team in the country and trying for even more than that, this team would be talking about how amazing the blocks are. If we were just a top 10 team or top 25 team and we were leading nation blocks, our fan base would be going nuts. We'd be making memes. We'd have t-shirts about how it's a block party because we're so good. It's almost an afterthought that we're setting records right now in blocks.
It's crazy, man. And the more I look at it, Kessler and Wendell both played 28 and 27 minutes tonight. They did all that in playing less than 75% of the game, which again, our depth And you look at Shackelford and Quinterly played 35. They played 8 whole game minutes, 20% of the game more than those two guys. And it's just insane. I want to give it to both. I think we've done it. Cool. What about I don't know where to put this in. I'm just throwing it in there. I'm throwing it in there.
Rewind just a bit, sorry, because I want to be emphatic about this. Walker Kessler will be leading the nation with blocks for at least 2 more nights. Western Kentucky does not play until February 3rd, 2 more days from now on Thursday. They skipped from Saturday already Thursday. So get your stats ready, get your tweets ready, get everything ready. Walker Kessler is leading the nation in blocks right now. Amazing.
And again, not playing, as many, I don't know how many of the big guys there is playing, but it's just, he is as good of a defensive player at the center position as I've seen on my team ever. But even in general college basketball, I just haven't seen many guys be able to do what he's doing. My thing, you'll appreciate this. If I was an Alabama fan tonight, you know who I would be really ticked off at?
Who?
J.D. Davison is soft as can be. He passed up charge opportunities. He passed up like loose balls. He had 0 points. He was 0 for 5. He had like no rebounds. How do you play 23 minutes and have 0 rebounds? Alabama made their run when he was off the floor for the first 7 minutes of the second half, and then he came on and started turning the ball over. So that is a horrendous. Now, I know this is only one game, and he had one good dunk against Kessler in the other game, but that was it. I don't know how he is that highly rated of a player. I'm very
can't be anymore, right? Because it all comes like that's one frustrating thing is you have players leave sometimes that didn't even play that well in college, but they're the measurables. A point guard that's 6'3" or whatever and is fast. He can do a thing like dunk on Kessler that time or whatever. But yeah, I was watching that at a point when Wendell was making great passes and different things. I was thinking all the point guards. I was thinking Wendell, Sharif Cooper, McCormick, Jared Harper. Like Bruce Pearl is a point guard whisperer. And I thought about this while I watched this. Like, don't listen to your uncles. Don't listen to your handlers. Don't listen to any of your hometown people that are going to, if you're a point guard in the state of Alabama or the state of Georgia or freaking anywhere in the country, and someone tells you not to go play for Bruce Pearl, they don't have your best interests at heart, because you need to go to Auburn and learn what's going on with Bruce Pearl, because he knows what's going on. I firmly believe that J.D. Davison would not look like this if he was playing under Bruce Pearl. That he went to Alabama and he's not getting developed the way he should, and he's freaking out at times. Katie Johnson just took a ball away from him. That was so fun to watch. All our guards all night were locked in and all up on it. And you could see the, like, not fear necessarily in J.D. Davison, but he was not confident. And Katie just went and grabbed that ball away from him. It was great. And man, you wondered in this day and age with transfers and different things, it's hard, it's tough because they've won some big games this year. If they didn't win 1 or 2 of those big games, you might start be talking about like, all right, JD, just hang it up for the year. We'll see you next year, on our team, So we'll see. There's still a chance that could happen.
He wouldn't, you're right. And it should make you appreciate this coaching staff and the fact that we have guys. Jabari's a bigger star than him, a more highly recruited player than him, going to be a higher draft pick than him. And he plays his tail off on both ends, and he does the little things, and he's not scared to mix it up or sacrifice his body. And just from
J.D. Davison scurried away like a scared little bunny rabbit when Walker Kessler came down that lane. Now, I'm not saying Walker that he was necessarily going to be able to do anything about it, but you're right. Even if he can't go up there and try to block anything,
take a
charge, or at least you foul him. Like, how many times did we see in different games all times this year? Jalen Williams took 4 fouls in the Missouri game, just fouling people from getting those easy 2 points. J.D. Davison sprinted away from Walker Kessler. It was fun to watch, honestly.
I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just had to get that in there. I love it. That was a horrific performance by him for a 5-star player that's supposed to be an NBA player next year. That was terrible.
I love that our biggest 2 guys that we were most worried about this year, J.D. Davison and Justin Powell, for screwing Auburn over when we thought they should have been on our team, both suck this year, and neither of them are even starting on their teams that aren't even that good. Very fun.
Anyway,
I want to keep this kind of tight. Hopefully tonight it's a late night podcast. I know everybody else has been staying up late. It's been weird that we've had so many late games or whatever, but we are getting a lot of ESPN treatment, which is really fun, having Jay Billis in town. And there's some NBA guy there, which Jabari Smith is helping everyone else on this team get attention. And they had some NBA guy in briefly, and he said, Walker Kessler made a lot of money tonight. He's doing everything around the rim. I was like, I hope he didn't just make some money tonight. Are you guys not watching? Are you guys not seeing this guy is like leading the nation in blocks right now? Like, I hope NBA is not like just paying attention to the ESPN games or whatever, but it was a stupid comment.
Yeah, he's one of their draft guys. I hate how they make it about the draft it's because they have the ESPN, or ESPN has the NBA draft, right? So
I try to listen to the radio call as much as possible. I listened to it in the first half, and I just blanked out on turning the volume back up, honestly, in the second half because I was watching highlights. What was the note that Sonny said tonight that you sent me? You have that pulled up? Sonny, the new Sonny Says on the radio broadcast now, where they pull out little quips that he says, and I really like it.
He said, Andy Bertram said, Nate Oates is in the face of the official. And then Sonny just chimes in, he is in the face of everybody but his own players. You get beat when all you do is coach the officials.
God, I love Sonny. He's so much fun to listen to. No filter at all. Like, it's great.
Like our podcast.
Yes, and it's amazing. You can listen to it anytime, anyway. You can listen to it 3 times if you want to. We'll go through our pregame notes here. Matt, can Auburn defend without fouling and keep Alabama off the free throw line?
Yes, so much better. I thought we did a brilliant job of man-to-man defense in the first half. That was terrific. And then the zone was awesome as well. We were consistently ahead of them in the foul game, which you would kind of expect being at home, and how much Auburn was attacking downhill. There were still some dumb fouls like there's going to be, but like overall, I thought Auburn did a great job of defending pretty well without fouls.
I think if you're an Alabama fan, or it's interesting, we were so pissed about the fouls in Tuscaloosa. It just seems so like we just could not get away from it. I think, it almost got reversed in this game, and it's easy for a homer for us to be like, well, it's because we played better. It's because we were a better team. It's because we drove the ball. But there are some statistics you can go with to be like, well, they shot 37 threes to our 21 threes, and then like another interesting part, they had 4 guys with 4 fouls, which is frustrating a little bit. They really spread out the fouls. And I think that was actually part of their strategy. Jabari Smith is turning into a foul collector. He just goes out there and, just jump shots and things. He just collects fouls all day long. He collects fouls. I was surprised to see that. I looked at Jabari's line. How many frees? 6 of 9 from the free throw line. I felt it was more, honestly, because it felt like, probably half those fouls of them that he collected ended up going out of bounds or whatever, because it felt like it was every time he touched the ball, they were fouling him. And I think maybe the radio announcers, maybe the TV announcers talked about it, that Alabama's strategy maybe at one point was to switch different guys onto Jabari, so they couldn't collect those fouls, and hopefully some would have more stamina because they kept switching the guys. But interesting to see, they didn't have a single guy foul out, but they had 4 guys with 4 fouls. So that's a little thing on the foul game. I don't think anything was unjust. I think, in fact, the worst one was when Kessler had a clean block, body and hand, and they didn't call it. But
here's your stat. Here's your stat. Points in the paint, 52-22 for Auburn. That tells you who was living near the basket and who wasn't, and whether you want to say that that's because of the refs or the different style of play. But here's the reality. Alabama's not been a good three-point shooting team this year. That was what they were last year, and they looked like it a little bit tonight, and we know they have the potential. But I thought they got 3 happy, and part of that's being down 20 in the first half. But and we took advantage, and I just thought we were very intentional. We are going to the basket so much better than we were a month ago. We are really finding this identity of attacking and then making the defense make a decision and then playing off that.
This was actually one of their best 3 nights. They hit 14 threes. A lot of it's volume with them. They shoot so many.
38% tonight. That's
no,
great.
I was gonna say but actually tonight they actually hit a decent percent, and they weren't at first. And the other part is they shoot a higher percent from 3 than from the field, at least in this game, and I think probably maybe in some other games too. But they've been averaging like low 30s, high 20s in like 3 shooting this year for the amount of volume they shoot. It's kind of like some of Bruce's teams we talked about before, that the NATO and Bruce Pearl play a similar style of shooting a lot of threes. Just so happened this year that we're so good in the front court, which we talked about before the season started, that we were going to be that great in the front court. But 100 points on 5 threes, we didn't think it was going to be like that, I don't think.
No, we've been shooting bad from 3 for weeks.
I hope we get that together, honestly, a little bit, because your next note is who wins the 3-point shooting battle. And I don't think we're a bad 3-point shooting team, but it hasn't been good recently. I don't feel like we've had a good 3 performance in a while.
Here's the beauty of it, right? We don't even notice or care because Bruce and I'm sure Nate Oates will at times too, but Bruce adapts what he wants to do. He has this framework, but he will adapt it to the players he has. And we have completely shifted. And we've talked about how we don't like this team being compared to the Final Four team because it's completely different. This is a completely different season. And in the way it's even flowing, it's totally different. Jay Bilas said it is not fun to play this Auburn team. And a lot of it is because of the front court and how hard we play and how much for how long of the game. We're going to play hard the entire night, and we're going to play 9 guys and all that good stuff.
Wendell was 2 of 8 from 3. I mean, that percentage wasn't great, 23%, 5 of 21 from 3. And part of that, Jabari didn't have like some big 3 night. He was 1 for 2. Wendell was a weird night. He hit 2 decent 3s or whatever, but he had some really bad logo ones to the point where I'm pretty forgiving about Wendell logo 3s. I mean, he's clearly proven out that he's good at them and they're big moments in the game, but he took 2 or 3 or 4 of them tonight. That was like, okay, one more like that, we're done with you shooting logo 3s. He didn't have the best timing tonight on some of those logo 3s where you're just like, calm down just a little bit. You're playing so good going downhill. Like, you don't need that right now, that early in the shot clock. You know, sometimes it feels like it's in the rhythm of the game and sometimes it doesn't. It's hard to like nitpick on that. KD's still doing like in your face 3s that can be frustrating. Times he like passed up he's done this a couple times. He passes up an open 3 and then the guy gets on him and he dribbles around and then still shoots it. It's like he got it in his head that he like should have taken that open 3 and now he's going to make it happen. You know, he was 1 for 5. So I don't know. Walker shot a 3 right at the end when he thought he was really hot, you know. The next one is can Kessler play his regular minutes and make a big impact unlike a Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, we already talked about it. Terrific.
Yeah. All right. Mine is, can Kessler thrive when T-Town refs aren't involved? Yes, very much so. In fact, he looked dominant. And the man, we've talked about him already. We just love Walker Kessler right now. Next one is, can we keep them from shooting open 3s early and getting confident? Clearly their big thing is they shoot a ton of 3s. They don't always make a ton of 3s. And it seems like that kind of like is telling the story of this Alabama team this year is, are they going to make the 3s when they shoot that volume? And it's not a lot of the time. So I was worried that early in the game, if they hit a couple in people's faces, all of a sudden you get high, you get these shooters that get hot, you know. And I wouldn't say they necessarily like the first maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes of the game, they weren't really making a ton. It was pretty low scoring to start the game on both sides. People couldn't, on both sides of this, you know, both Auburn and Alabama couldn't really make their shots. I won't say that they were going to hit some eventually. I don't know if 38% or 37.8% at Auburn was something to be expected. They've had some really low numbers. So I don't know if that was our defense's fault. That's what I was worried about, is that we've had some games this season where we've left a lot of open 3 shooters. And we still left some open ones, but I think they just hit them tonight. They were just feeling it.
And they were at 50% before we went zone. So like they were hitting everything and they were hitting contested shots. I thought it had to do more with just, you have 2 veterans in Shackelford and Quinterly who have been in every gym and they're not scared of the moment. They've beaten all these good teams. I just thought they shot the ball really well.
I'm looking forward to not seeing them again. I hope we don't see them again in the SEC tournament because they're like due. We've got them away. We got them at home. I know we're so good, but I feel like they're due to just keep going off on that. And they're going to have that extra motivation always. I'm done wanting to play the rival. They're clearly too dangerous to want to play again, you know? So the last one is, can we win the turnover battle and actually score off of them? I've been a little frustrated with not finishing our fast breaks and things. In fact, I texted Matt during this at some point, if KD can actually make his fast break 2s, then he's going to be unstoppable. And he loves the body contact and he just doesn't make them a lot of the time. I don't know. Tonight, it seems like the passing was a little better. Like they were moving the ball a little better on these fast breaks. That's good. The turnover battle was 11 for Alabama, 8 for us. Well, so it was pretty low actually overall. It felt like there was more than that, but I guess we pushed the pace a lot, but won the turnover battle. Did we win the rebounding battle too? Yep. 47 for us, 40 for them.
Yep.
Pretty good.
And the points off, it's not great, but we got 12 points. They got 8. So we won points off turnovers as well. That's been a weird thing the last few games. So yeah, I think that was a key. We've talked about every game, how important those 2 categories are. It's going to be hard to beat this Auburn team when they win those 2.
I think we can talk a little bit about like a little big picture on the rivalry right now with Auburn and Alabama. They swept us last year in a year that we were down. I don't think they're down this year, you know, like from like I think this is more their baseline. I think we're just having an amazing season. So it's always good to grab that sweep right now after what happened last year. You know, we've talked about Nate Oates in Alabama. You're a little higher on them than I am. I think that they really took advantage of a lot of seniors in a COVID year to do what they did and still only got Sweet 16. Really sucks that they got rings out of it because he's going to hold on to that for a long time. But there's a couple other teams now, Tennessee, LSU, us, that have all gotten rings. So it's 4 different teams that have gotten rings. So I'm hoping this is more their regular ground. I hope they lose Quinterly and Shackelford in the off season, and we have like maybe next year will be their down year. I don't know who the recruits are or what they got coming in with transfer portal. You really don't know what's going on. Maybe Nate Oates will get poached by Louisville or some other school, but I think they have a really big buy on him right now. So doubtful.
It's a great point. I mean, who would have thought 5 years ago we're talking about basketball for both schools and how important it is. It feels especially important for us having a great coach like Bruce, with some of the other stuff going on and just athletics in general. It's really important to like capitalize on how special this group is in this program. And I actually think it can be a good thing that Alabama's like top 20. They're 22nd in the net coming into today, even with all those bad losses. Like it's good that that wins against them matter. It's in a way in college basketball that's really important, and I think it's just going to spur Auburn on to keep the pedal down. Like this is the whole league is so competitive right now that you really can't rest on any laurels. This is a special team, obviously for us, but I love that Bruce, he framed it in the press conference yesterday. Like, hey, like we're number one. We're going to be leading the SEC no matter what. But if we don't get this one at home with a chance to sweep, it was the most important thing to him that's happened this season so far. And that is the right way to view it. It's a huge opportunity. And don't forget, Alabama did win the SEC regular season and the SEC tournament last year. Like that happened. We have won both of those things too with Bruce, but like, it was really important that we strike back. And I think obviously this year's been a better strike back than we could have ever hoped.
We struck back with a crane kick. We saw Bruce Pearl doing the crane kick out there. You love having, they hate him. Everybody else, like, there's tons of haters out there with Bruce. And part of it's because he has fun. He does that kind of stuff. And, like if Nate Oates was out there, like we made fun of him for doing the handshake thing against Houston. That was such a petty thing to do. I'm sure if Nate Oates was doing a crane kick, we'd think he was whatever, but he's our guy. I love they did the crane kick. I love that someone gave them the broom and where they're throwing around the broom. I love how much fun this team is having and how fun it is to be a fan of this team. I think that's a little underrated kind of in this run, is that there's a lot of teams out there that have players that aren't very likable on a good team, or they have a style of play that's not very fun, or they don't have a like kind of culture, like our meme stuff that's going on as like a group, or like have this like kind of like coach like Bruce that gets it, so enjoy the best of this. It's not just being number one. It's not just having a guy like Jabari Smith that's like going to be in the NBA as a number one pick and you can like do that. It's the whole thing is a bigger deal. Like that Virginia won the national championship a couple years back. That team was born to watch. Like they had their fun because they were number one, but we're having like, it just keeps amplifying with what we're doing. And so just keep having fun, guys. Never done a lost podcast, never lost in regulation, never lost in America.
It's Peacock, right? That's what it's all about. Like yeah. Ryan Starrett, I believe, started that, months ago at this point. And it's been this, if you've been an Auburn fan a long time, there's this tendency to just downplay and be scared of what's coming around the corner. And you just know it's going to end badly. And you've seen things. And look, that can all still happen. Like every game, who knows what's going to happen. But there has been this release, I think, from the Auburn fan base. And it's because of how this team handles itself. And it's supposed to be fun. It's sports. It's easy to forget that. We take it so seriously. And we won't be having fun after a loss if and when that happens. But you're right. That's a great point about this team. They have fun. They do talk some trash, but look,
you want to get into it all that it got scrappy out there. And I kind of love that it got scrappy out there because it makes me like, sometimes these kids are only coming in for 1 year, transferring around. Right? I don't know if they understand the rivalry. They understand the stuff that we have to live with every day. The people that have to go to work with their coworkers are obnoxious every day. You go to the gas station and they jokingly like refuse to serve you gas because you have an Auburn shirt on, and they're of course working at a gas station and an Alabama fan. Just the little things like that every day. I don't know if they get it, but then when they get scrappy like that out there and they're having a good time and they're talking trash, then you're like, all right, maybe they do get it, and they're going to end up getting it for the rest of their life, honestly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think our guys get it. I think Bruce gets it. He just gets Auburn so well, and every year he places a tremendous value on that. And Nate Oates, I don't know if you saw this before the game, but in his presser, spent time talking about how like, well, it's a small arena and, we hope we'll have some Bama fans traveling into Auburn Arena too, just like that. No,
Not at that price, they're not. Not like it. This, like I think in some other sports, there's like people just it's about the traveling and it's just expensive to travel. Nah, when it's like $300-$400 for a ticket and your team's not that good, they coming to see it.
No. Let's go players.
I think we talk about players real quick. We'll try to keep it a little tighter than we usually do. We talked about Kessler. We talked about Jabari Smith. Man, just still smooth. They really gave some trouble at times. A little physical, very physical with him. He just collected fouls all day, and he got a really quiet 17 points, man. On another year, on another team, you would just be blown away by a player that can get you a quiet 17 points like that.
Teams are starting to really pick up the physicality, and Bruce gets mad when they don't call stuff. But I think you're seeing the growth in his game. He drove way more in this game than he has all year. I thought he was pretty effective with it. He took care of the ball. He did have one turnover where it was kind of, again, sometimes in scramble situations, he kind of doesn't see the floor well. But man, I thought going to the basket, he looked better. He took there was no way he was going to get the dunk in, but he took on two guys at the rim, like two of their big guys. And like, I love that aggressiveness and assertiveness out of him, and seeing him get to we've talked about the free throw line, and then this is 2 straight games where he's getting to the free throw line. He had a very quiet 17. Not only that, Auburn made their huge run in the second half without him on the floor. He only played 24 minutes. So
I was pretty surprised when I think it was the draft guy came on. I was like, and Jabari Smith's coming back on the floor or whatever. I was like, wow, we just had that huge run and he wasn't even there the whole time. I didn't even think about how he wasn't in there the entire time. That's how good this team is, man. He collects fouls out there. He's hitting his free throws. He's hitting his shots. The jumpers are amazing. He wasn't on to start the game. This Bama game, he's had a couple now, the Kentucky and Bama, I believe it was, where he just hit some stuff early and you're like, he's on, get this man the ball. It wasn't like that tonight, but we have so many other dudes on this team. It doesn't have to be, and he still gets his, and that's how amazing he is.
Well, and his defense and rebounding just continues to be so much better. I said earlier this year that you would really see him. He has such room to grow, like even within how good he is, and just playing more of these games against this level of competition. You're seeing it. You're seeing him add things to his game and hone in on things that he can be better. I thought it was really fascinating. He told the draft guy, Mike Schmitz, he feels like he's at his best, or maybe it was Jay Billis. Anyway, he said he feels like he's at his best when he's locked in defensively, because offense comes naturally to him. It's kind of what he's comfortable with. But when he's doing the dirty work, contributing, getting those rebounds, he feels like it opens up this other part of him. And I think you've seen him get tougher as the season's gone on.
Yeah. I want to bring that up again. I think that was such a great point about that dunk he tried to get. It's huge from a mindset standpoint.
Yeah.
After watching a guy like Chuma take forever to develop and like have to be pushed so hard to be aggressive, for him to have such a comfortable jump shot, to shoot threes so well, to be doing so many other parts of the game so well. And the one thing we've like asked him to do is maybe drive a little more, maybe more aggressive. It'd be so easy for a player like that with a bunch of other dudes on the team to be like, nah, my thing is the jump shot. My thing's 3-pointer. I can do that. I know I can do that. That's my spot. No, he's not waiting for that. He's saying, now I'm going to do it all. And I'm like, it's just really good. Even though he didn't get that, and that he's still not like being great on the drive necessarily, that he's still going for it. He's still developing it. He's still pushing for it. We have plenty of games left for him to do that. And a guy that talented can pull it off.
I love his game, man. He will talk trash. After he got fouled on that dunk, he just looked over and he's like, y'all, if I had thrown that down, like this would.
We're getting some good looks. Walker Kessler had a great look in the Oklahoma game where Wendell had thrown him that pass off the ground. He dunked the ball or whatever he did, and he looked over at Wendell like, oh, we're getting some great memes. Next up is Alan Flanagan, 10 points. How many rebounds? He get 2 rebounds. Just a really solid game from Flanagan, which is huge. He didn't take a charge. He didn't airball a 3. Didn't make a 3 either, but that's okay. Just we wanted him to trend up, and he's trending up. He had a couple good drives. I don't know if he finished most of them, but he got a foul call or 2. He's clearly a guy they rely on when they're throwing the ball in from out of bounds. He kind of like sets up and like they either throw it up a lob to him or he initiates kind of the movement. He got a good one at the end of the half with like 2 seconds left where he got fouled getting the ball, which was an interesting play. I was really hoping they had Jabari in that one because I wanted them to practice like March Madness moment who gets the ball to try to get a buzzer beater. You only have so many moments you can do that. But hey, it worked out. We still got 1 or 2 points when Flanagan went to the line. I'm just really proud of him. He's been training badly, and this was a solid one. And him and Cambridge, we were texting about this one too. Him and Cambridge together, if you count that position, had a good game. And it was fun to watch, and they're doing a lot of hustle plays. So if that's all we end up with, 2 guys like Cambridge rising and Flanagan being a little lower than I thought he was going to be, then that's a solid position on the team. It's not a deterrent,
18 points and 8 rebounds from them together. That's pretty good from when you consider that's coming after Jabari Smith, Kessler, Wendell Green, all that. Like Flanagan, great to see him in double digits. Great to see him getting to the line for 6 free throws. I think that's huge for his game. The only part I didn't like was 2 forced threes that I know at least one of them was early in a shot clock when we should have been trying to slow the game down and run clock. But he looked comfortable. He looked comfortable getting downhill. And I mentioned to you, Bruce said yesterday, I always perk my ears up when he says specifics like this. He said, we think Devin's earned some more minutes with his defense. He is one of our best defensive guards right now. And he played 18 and Flanagan played 23. So that's way closer to 50-50 than it's been. Maybe that's just this game. We'll see. But it's great to see both of them contributing. Well,
yeah, when they're both playing like that, I love it. I mean, it's just a team game. We don't need that many more scores necessarily. And when Cambridge had a really bad 3 at the top thing, but he also made another 3. And I think he had an alley-oop this game. He had some good rebounds, some good putbacks. So good on him. Flanagan, good. Just keep going. KD Johnson, 13 points, 5 rebounds, had a Hamburglar moment. JD Davidson was locked in on defense a lot. He's another one of those guys I was going to say earlier when we were saying how much fun this team is. Most teams don't have a Cardwell. Most teams don't have a KD Johnson, and nobody else has both of them at the same time. The energy and the running into the crowds and the playing off the crowds, just so much fun. And he just had another super solid game in this trend of great, solid games in a row.
He's getting better and better. The fast breaks are frustrating. I'm glad the refs didn't call that one because he doesn't need to get that call. That's a terrible to throw yourself into the guy. You shouldn't get that call as a former amateur official.
He got a lot of calls, I believe, in the game.
He did.
His last game and didn't get as many this game, but still got a decent amount this game. And it was kind of one of those things where it's like when he's getting the calls, he looks great. When he's not going to look great. And then there was a weird thing where the first half he was getting calls, and then early in the second he wasn't, and most of the team wasn't getting it. Right. We also didn't deserve it half the time. There was a weird one where Jabari got underneath the basket, behind the basket, and tried to draw contact and throw it. I was like, what angle was that? You couldn't even make that if there was nobody guarding you. Yeah.
He did get the calls. He viciously was attacking downhill. He got our first bucket of the game on a kind of just flying down the court layup. He was 1 for 5 from 3. I love him getting to the line when he gets those calls. When he can go 6 for 8 from the line, that's great. 13 points is awesome on 9 shots. That's always what I look for with him. He took less shots than Jabari, less shots than Wendell, same as Kessler. I'm fine with that. At 33 minutes, how many times have I pointed out that he's played the most minutes on this team? It's consistent, and I think that says a lot about how Bruce feels about his energy and his defense is just, don't you feel like he's way less risky defensively now than he was a month ago?
Yeah, because I watched it for a while there. You pointing out during the year how many open threes he was leaving, how he was getting lost on defense. So I started watching it all the time, and he had his gaps in the last 5 or 6 games ago. He was still having some pretty bad gaps, so I was throwing out there after really watching it. Now I don't really see it very often. In fact, sometimes I'm watching him, don't get lost. I see him hedging over a little bit to maybe get a steal, and he never gets too far these days. And they toss the ball out, and he's right there. So good on him. I was going to say something else, but I'm forgetting. We can move on. We're getting a tight podcast. Zep, I'll just let you talk about Zep.
I'm honored. He was the last guy. All 9 of our guys scored. I think that's always healthy for us. The depth just continues to be there. I think he struggles handling the ball against physical, good defending guards. That's my fear. Wendell doesn't seem to have the same trouble, at least on the same level. 2 points, missed all the shots, hit both his free throws, had a rebound. He did run a really nice, I thought the offense ran fine when he was in there, but KD got a lot of his minutes tonight. And I think it was because of KD's effectiveness on both ends. But again, Zep's going to be a team guy. You never have to worry about him.
It's clearly a difference on offense depending on if Zepp or Wendell's running the show. But man, we have a 1A, 1B point guard situation where you're solid with either guy being in. So the fact that it's more like, okay, well, we're lobbing the ball and doing crazy stuff when Wendell's in, and we're just really solid when Zepp's in, is just so huge. Most teams don't have this going on where you feel so confident if either guy's in. And the other point I was going to make was, I think Katie Johnson plays that many minutes too on top, because we have such a solid 2 deep in every position, but the 2. And yeah, Zepp and Wendell can play the 2 position, but Katie is the 2 position. And so he ends up like, there's no great backup for him the way there is just so naturally with Cardwell, Jalen Williams, Cambridge, nobody really for KD, and then Wendell. So it's like, I know they translate the 1s and the 2s, kind of go back and forth, but it feels like KD is the 2 and Wendell and Zepp are the point guard,
Bruce, if he wanted to, 2s and 3s are the same. So he could play Cambridge and Flanagan at the same time. And it happens sometimes, but he doesn't want to. Like, in my opinion, I think he sees something in the numbers or the energy level. He wants KD on the floor. Now, that may not have always been the case this year at times when he was kind of out of control and crazy. But man, he really seems to be channeling it exactly like we wanted. It's now it feels like it's 80-90% good plays, 10 or 20% bad plays.
Jalen Williams, he was fine. Didn't play too often. I think he was in during that run, right? When Jabari was out. So, he had a great pass tonight that I pointed out to Walker Kessler. Walker got fouled and finished the play anyways. And, solid guy. How many minutes did he have playing?
15, so that's up. I like seeing that, but that's because Jabari played less. And Jabari played less because I was hoping to find plus minus. I haven't found it yet for tonight's game, but Jalen's plus minus might have led the team. He was on the floor every time we made progress, it felt like. And 15 minutes from him, solid, 4 points, rebound, assist, no turnovers, good defense out of that zone in the corner. Just really, again, he's like Zepp in a lot. He's like the forward Zepp, where it's just you kind of take some of the stuff for granted, but it's great to have him coming off the bench.
Yeah. Cardwell, man. I love Cardwell. I talked about a while back with some podcasts, just love Cardwell. He's super athletic. The alley-oop he had tonight was a crazy one where he was like above the rim and like threw his elbow into it almost, like about tore down the rim with it. Cause I think he was trying to I don't think he got a good handle on the ball. So he ended up just kind of like walloping it into the goal there. But he just plays so solid. I don't know what his minutes ended up being.
11
minutes, really only 11 minutes, man. Most efficient man in college basketball. Did he get a block tonight? 1 block here. So he just keeps it up. Hopefully he can stay in that top 5 so we can keep using the SEC stat. Just a fun guy, man. And we went on runs with him in at times. It's just crazy that you can have a guy so good as Kessler and you're still pretty excited when Cardwell's in.
Oh, and we got to give him a shout out too. He had some red moments, rebound, energy, defense for sure. He also had one of the best skilled plays I've seen him make off of, they trapped Wendell in a pick and roll or, on the side. And Cardwell caught the ball on the run, kind of played off 2 feet, as Jay Billa said, and hit a bank shot perfectly instead of getting a charge. Whereas I feel like all the time he would have gotten a charge or fumbled. He's had some issues catching. It was a really hard play. It was early in the game, I think in his first rotation. So I think he's maybe getting back comfortable. 4 points, 3 rebounds, no turnovers. And just he's a presence. And I think his rebounding when Kessler's off the floor is paramount. Imagine if we didn't have him and we were playing Jalen at the 5, we would just struggle a little more to get those and win rebounding every night like we do.
The last guy we talked about is Cambridge. We talked about it a little bit when we talked about the Flanagan position. 8 points, 6 rebounds, 2 offensive rebounds. Just another solid night from him. He hit a 3. He missed another one badly, but it just feels like it's a positive when he's in. When earlier in the season, when they had to put a lot on his back because Flanagan was out injured, you're pointing out he played too many minutes. You can't just straight hustle through some of those. But now that he can even up these minutes a little bit with Flanagan, so many other guys have been kind of gotten comfortable in their roles of scoring. It's really fun to watch Cambridge out there now just do the hustle stuff. They kind of he compared himself to Dennis Rodman. We talked about it in the last podcast, but it's fun. I'm a big fan when he's a backup and he's doing the hustle stuff. It really makes me some of these kids get big egos and different stuff. It's so much fun. Part of it's because we're winning so much, but it's fun to watch all these kids embrace their little roles and have a good time.
He out rebounded Jabari. He had 6 rebounds. That's massive. For him to shoot, I think everybody was thrilled to see him hit a 3 that was open, and it was a good look. It was wide open. Those are the shots we want him to take and hit. He hit one of those. He was 3 for 4 at the line. His free throw shooting can be a little iffy. Hit some shots, was aggressive. I really think he's really coming on. Him and KD, I think, are just becoming so much. Maybe their roles are becoming more defined. I know you're big on that. Like, how do you fit in? I think it seems like Cambridge has stumbled on something, and it seems like KD has settled into his lane a little bit.
We just have so many dudes on this team. That's the only reason I worry about roles is just not to like, if people understand and have expectations of a certain kind of role. If you're in Cambridge and you're expecting to be the Dennis Rodman, expecting to like be thrilled with all its rebounds, then when you get them, you're thrilled and you're not upset that you didn't get the ball in your hand constantly. So I'm glad these guys have kind of embraced the different like small things they need to do and like celebrate the little things instead of they don't have to have the ball in their hand all the time. So that's all the players, man. It was a fun one, a big one. We got about 5-10 more minutes. We can talk about stuff. What, you got something?
Yeah, 2 more stats I just want to throw out. Again, we dominated in so many areas. The 3-point shooting was the only reason this wasn't a 30 or 40-point blowout. Okay. 44-20 in bench points, the depth, 27-11 in fast break. When's the last time we had 27 points on the break? Like, that's huge that we had the pace going the way we wanted to. I really think it wore them down. So huge win.
I wanted to know when the last time we scored 100 points. I know like there was a time early in the Bruce Pearl era that we hadn't scored 100 points in like a really long time. We were like really trying to get that 100 points, and we finally got it a couple years into his tenure. So I'm curious how many times we've done it in his tenure and when the last time that was. Even with great teams, it's tough to score 100 points.
All right. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. And I don't think we want to take the time.
Yeah.
SEC update.
Ole Miss went into LSU and won that one, so that's a big one. LSU's just, I think they've turned into a paper tiger a bit. I don't know if Xavier Pinson's still out or not, but they've lost a lot of games now. They're not as big of a threat. Let's see. Texas A&M was playing pretty well against Tennessee.
A&M has gone bye-bye. They're 4-5. LSU, get this. This is crazy. LSU, A&M, Alabama, all 4-5, tied with South Carolina in the league standings.
I love how even everything's looking right now. Kentucky's getting a ton of love. They beat Kansas in Kansas last week, and man, they're 17-4. They have 4 losses, and they're like number 5 in the country, I think, in the AP. And the next team with 4 losses is like number 12. I mean, I think it's like they've got some really big wins. It was huge to go in there and beat Kansas. It's so hard to win away, and to dominate the way they did doing it was huge. But also they're Kentucky, so there's always people like looking at like seeing what they can be. I think they're always seeing what Auburn can't be because they've never seen it happen. They've never seen an Auburn jersey win a national championship. They've seen so many Kentucky ones do it that they kind of like, they can envision when they're hot that this is the real them. The hot Kentucky is the real Kentucky. The cold Kentucky is not the real one. It's the opposite with teams like Auburn, So I'm scared of them though. I don't want to play them again. I'm hoping someone else can beat them. I hope they, have some issues.
So we kind of get a win-win Saturday. I don't know if you call it that, but I would call it a win-win. Kentucky goes to Alabama. If Kentucky loses, Auburn has potentially a 3-game lead over them, which I think would be massive. Bruce said tonight, he's like, I don't know how many times Kentucky's going to lose, man. They look really good right now. So that would be nice.
The smart move is to cheer for Alabama in that one, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it. So,
or Alabama loses and goes to 4-6 in the SEC. I mean, that's
at this point at 4-5, I'm not too worried. Like I know we can have an epic collapse, someone can get injured or something like that, but I think after 5 losses, I'm more worried about like, I think if someone can get, if everybody else can have 4 losses, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and then I was going to see who Kentucky plays. Kentucky's clearly the big, like, it's so big that we got that win.
Tennessee and Arkansas have gotten hot again. They've started to win a bunch of games, so I'm worried that they could beat us for sure at Arkansas and at Tennessee. This
both on the road.
Biggest 2 next games, our most scary games on the schedule left over. So if we're going to lose 2, it's probably those 2, and then like if we're going to lose 3, then all of a sudden we're getting upset by somebody. It's not like going to be a huge upset. I mean, it'll be a big upset now that we've been so good. But at Tennessee and at Arkansas, I was hoping they wouldn't be so hot now that they're our next 2, but. 3 losses in the conference. I'm still more worried that we would lose to them and then Kentucky would take the lead or tie us up. I don't want to share it with Kentucky. Maybe we'll look back at this podcast and I would love to be sharing with Kentucky.
Well, the nice thing, if you're looking for, again, the good things about our schedule, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Arkansas are all tied with 3 losses right now. They all play each other in the next week to 10 days. So they're going to kind of bump each other around. Kentucky's the team we need to watch for. And we haven't mentioned, I mentioned on the last podcast how huge this week is. We got the big one against Alabama. another big opportunity to sweep Georgia on the road Saturday. Can't wait to see how many Auburn fans are in Athens for that game. It sounds like it's going to be a ton. We just got to stay clean, play our game, go in there, take care of business on the road. We know how hard away wins are. Alabama lost there, right? So if we can get that one, man, sweep your rivals. You're 10-0 in the league, 8 games left to win a conference championship. We'll be feeling pretty good.
I'm very, very excited to see how many Auburn fans are in that stadium. People are very excited. Somebody messaged me and asked how they could know where Tiger Walk is and like other events that are going on. I think people are so excited. There's so many people going that people are wanting to like do events. They're going to like another sport, some tailgating or some sort of thing, a bar takeover or something, some sort of alumni event. I told them they usually announce like what hotel they're at or whatever for the Tiger Walk, like either like Friday night or Saturday early in the morning or something. So I'll keep an eye out. We'll post about it maybe if we see that. Hopefully they will do some events. I'll keep an eye out, DM us about what's going on and we'll let everybody else know. I'm sure the message boards will have it. Did you have Kentucky's record up? Who do they play the next?
They're 6-2, so they're 2.5 behind us right now. They host Vanderbilt tomorrow, and then go to Alabama.
At Alabama, okay. Hopefully they have a couple more big ones left on the schedule. They play Tennessee yet? They did play Tennessee, and they beat.
They go to Tennessee. That's still on
Tennessee's the one where they went off on that insane percentage of shooting. So
Kentucky's schedule, just to give you an idea, they still play Alabama twice. They play at Tennessee. They host LSU in Florida. They play at Arkansas. They play at Florida. They've got a tougher road than we do, I think.
Yeah. Matt sent me in the mail a program from the Florida game with Dylan Cardwell on here. I feel like I got a little piece of Auburn Arena. I don't think I'm going to be able to make it at this point to Auburn Arena, which is really sad after telling you guys to do whatever you can to make it. But here I am with a little piece of it at least. I'm still planning on hopefully seeing this team in March. I'm going to save some money up and go somewhere in March to see this team play, I hope. But little piece there. Matt, any final thoughts before we do some maybe some shout outs real quick and what's going on?
I was just going to say maybe some shout outs. I was going to shout out Matt Plexico for giving us some more student insight today. That was awesome. And just appreciate everybody's continued support of the podcast. Tonight was big, and I'm so glad we got the win. I just have a weight lifted off my shoulder now that we have this sweep over Alabama. It feels great.
I have no idea how reels work on Instagram, like why some blow up and some don't. Matt did such great coverage during the actual Pro Bowl stuff. And then I post all 3 of his things today, which were fine. I'm glad I texted him and said like, hey, anything going on? Like, I think people would love to know what's going on. So he sent me some stuff. We all love Matt Plexico and his student correspondent coverage. They have like over 4,000 people have watched his videos. And I think like, cool, but I don't know why that has 4,000 and like the Rampage, like stuff at Pearlville has like 200. Like, I don't know what's going on, but some other shots. People have been hitting us up on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. Caleb Williams is one of our favorite guys. Let's see what he said. He said, thanks to y'all's pregame notes, I know what to look for better understand the game instead of just mindlessly watching. Keep up the good work, guys. I agree, Caleb. Thank you. I think we've proven out that our pregame notes are very helpful, and then we get to talk, kind of guides the conversation. He also said that he's learned a lot about basketball this year by listening, and we have also learned a lot about basketball just by being so invested in this and having to we don't want to sound stupid, so we're going to do our research. We're going to look into things, and no, I've never been more interested. I've never been more hyped to eat any kind of content I can. Be on the lookout for our podcast later this week with I'll say it again, a former Auburn player, a great that was on our team and is now on the coaching staff. You'll probably figure that out, but hit us with the DMs if you want to guess. Without looking it up. Some people don't know he's on the staff, so we're excited. Matt, anything else?
No, man, just looking forward to it. Let's keep it rolling in Athens this weekend.
All right, War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody. Beat Bama. We did it. Never done a lost podcast.
Never lost in regulation. Never lost in America.